Welcome back. The teams are gearing up for round 2 of Echo Fox versus Cloud9, and we have to give honors to the first game. It was player of the game, Impact. I mean, he went yesterday, I think, with 2 as well.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Again? This is crazy.
It's hard to argue against it, though. I mean, he's winning lane. He's the one who TP's first bot lane, gets them the first blood. He's pressuring the turrets. His equalizers are huge. It's like, what did he do wrong?
Yeah, it's something you gotta what did he do wrong? He didn't do anything wrong.
There you go.
There you go, player of the game. And then we gotta look at the bot lane. We said we'd be taking a little bit of a look at it. Cloud9 versus Foxes, how they've been doing, but how they match up mostly.
Yeah, and I mean the scoreline kind of tells the story there. 8-2-12 versus 1-12-9. It's a little bit unlucky for Echo Fox as their bot lane was not having a good game. And I mean, Gate, I need to see him step up because he has been a big contributor for Echo Fox. So if they want to bounce back in this series, you need to see a lot more out of that guy because he has not been kind of one to ride coattails. He has been a great initiator. He has been adding a lot of damage. He had a fantastic Misfortune game where he's carrying as far as that goes. So he can really have some big games for the team.
Yeah.
And while Froggen was having a great game, I think Acadian was doing pretty well in the early game. You need to have your whole team contributing to stand a chance against a team like Cloud9 because their whole team always is contributing.
Absolutely. And again, we see, kind of stay on the bot lane. With Gate needing to roam, that means there definitely needs to be as well results from Keith being able to be left in that lane alone and not have to really worry about it as we see kind of Smoothie roaming around, making some plays as well. Supports do what they can to get out of lane, but it definitely becomes a bit harder when these guys are always pushed up against their turret. So a bit of breathing room, the first few levels to themselves. We've seen that Fox can play from behind, stave off going 15K down, 10K down. It really didn't get that big for Cloud9 there until the Baron fights came in. So they keep it close. They just got to make those fights count in the connections.
Yeah, Echo Fox really... And they need to kind of give themselves the respect that you don't need to be super desperate, right? They actually got a lot of good picks. A couple times they overreached and they got punished for it big time. But they're making good plays. They're getting good catches. And they can give themselves the respect to say, hey, we're down 5K, but we can still win this game. Like that's something that they actually can still do. They are able to compete. They are able to hang around even when at a deficit. So it is important to keep that in mind. And not feel like you're such a bad team that you have to like do these crazy things all the time.
Look at this, Reaper back in for, no, I'm just kidding. He probably still hasn't.
There you go. He's subbing in,
yep.
taking his seat. I don't know who he's sitting now. He's in the middle, so he's Jensen.
Yeah, he's going to be.
Reaper in for mid lane. There you go.
Let's see what the coach's skills actually have dwindled to, or maybe they've gotten better. They've had all this time to look outside the game, have all these outside-the-box strategies. It seems to be working for whatever the knowledge he has injected into the squad in the coaching structure that Cloud9 has brought over. A few other words here before we get the game started. Some players taking care of business before we get back into this. Echo Fox having also a little more time to discuss what they're going to do coming into this next game. We talked about what could you do in Champion Select versus Cloud9. The answer was kind of not much, but go for your own comfort and make sure you feel good coming out of it and not worry about what they have.
And one thing is they're going to be blue side this game, so they will have the opportunity to first pick. I don't know if Cloud9 will want to give over Kha'Zix or if they're going to try to do some sort of a different bans. Obviously, standard red side is not a Kha'Zix ban, but because Acadian has had such great success on it and can first pick it this time, maybe they'd want to try to change things up and take it away from him because he has not had the same effectiveness on Nidalee in the couple games that he's played it as he has on a lot of other champions. It's just much harder, I think, to make plays on Nidalee and to get involved in some of the situations that champions like Kha'Zix and Lee Sin and these guys can kind of get things done.
I'd love to see it. Acadian loves to be aggressive. I want to see more. Not I want to see more, but it would be great to see synergy with Looper there because when they go up for ganks, it seemed like they were a little bit off. Impact could almost get out easy. We saw it was almost, as we said, the nice guy syndrome, and they almost walked away letting Impact live. So a little more communication. It locks down. Fox is still working with a great setup and a great team. Just have yet to see those results on the Rift. Now into picks and bans for game number 2. Rise Jace, Camille LeBlanc starting things off.
Yeah, and with 2 of those 3 bans, it's almost always going to be the third as well. So I think we're just going to see Rengar taken away, and it should be the first pick Kha'Zix, unless they really feel like Keith must have Varus. But it will be Kha'Zix, and I like this a lot. This alone could be the change that Echo Fox needs, because Acadian really has hard carried some games on this champion. He can definitely blast some people.
I feel like this should be the Ashe for Fox as well if they do come down to it. They could get the Varus on that side. I think it plays more. Varus, obviously very strong, but I feel like Ashe plays more in favor of Keith being able to stay in the back, hawk shot safety, and get just kind of an ultimate in there for the team. Chain of Corruption's not do to anybody, but is a very missed skill in itself. It
Yeah,
just
it
seems
really
like
is.
a really fickle skill to hit sometimes.
It definitely can be. You definitely see a lot of missed Varus
Yeah.
ultimates, but Jin will be up here too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's very true.
It's something that Keith certainly can play. It's also kind of the sneaky special. He's going to be playing Varus this game, though. But the different teams have different priorities on AD carries. There are the accepted top 3 right now, but it does kind of change day to day and team to team, which is actually being first picked. And we're going to get to see Ivern again. So Ivern did get played by Contracts yesterday,
He did.
as well as 2 games by Svenskeren. And so Ivern in full effect now in NALCS.
Hybrid in full effect. I like it. I remember casting that with Kobe, and he was like, "This is tilting. This is not what you like." Katie in there, yeah, it does go for the Jin. And Froggen picks up the Zyra for Gate. So the AD carry composition is locked in. It's still, that's what happened before anyways, when Jin and Ashe were being pretty much back and forth swapped because of those ultimates and utility you could use for them. We're still in that semi-era. And MF on the other side is going to be your support. Seeing a lot more of her. Also, getting a little bit of time play in the AD carry position now, or bot lane.
Yeah, Altec busted that out. Looked really good
Yeah.
on it for FlyQuest. So has shown that it can be played in both roles. And I think Misfortune is another champion that works great with the lethality buffs. Ivern is going to be really strong. And it's also, it's like a really high priority pick in EU. And it's interesting that it's finally transitioning over to here because Kha'Zix isn't even always higher priority than Ivern is in EU. So depending on what teams are playing it, depending on how comfortable you are, you don't necessarily have a big advantage from picking Kha'Zix over Ivern.
See Jensen maybe trying to get the Corki on this run through with that Ivern. He would be able to spit out rockets all day long and buff control.
It was interesting, though, talking a little bit to Acadian about Ivern, asking him, and he was saying that the reason he thinks it doesn't actually come out is because people get so far behind in the first 10 minutes of the game on Ivern when he's seeded played in scrims and things like that. So, you know, he'll have a chance to prove why he thinks it's not good here because he has his comfort pick. He's going to be on the Kha'Zix and he's going up against an Ivern. So maybe he can show us that you can dominate Ivern.
What is that entry? Why do they fall so far behind? Wow, words. Why do they fall so far behind?
Exactly.
Got it.
And because a lot of the time, honestly, I'm seeing the Ivern get ahead. I'm seeing the Ivern up in levels, him taking away and controlling the buffs and the enemy jungle.
So the Corki gets banned out. Jensen may just have to go back to that Syndra. I'm sure he's not too sad about that. Easily controlling the mid lane with that pick. Very, very safe for him. And it also gives Contract some time to just farm it up. Make sure you can focus on some other lanes if necessary.
One thing we could see here from Froggen is actually TF. He has done very well on it. A couple games that is available. Not sure if he's going to feel comfortable playing TF into the Syndra because I think that could be kind of a rough matchup for the TF, but you could probably farm it out. You know, he does obviously have other options as well, you know, Orianna, things like that, pretty standard. But TF has worked well for Echo Fox and for Froggen in particular because since their kind of resurgence, them starting to do better last week and in some of the games this week, it has really looked good, and there it is. I like it.
So going to be Shen here for Cloud9. I actually thought, once you said TF, I was like, ooh, Shen, maybe two? Lubricant, you could do a lot of globals with that. They already run the 2 teleports, and then you have some Stand United and a Gate, so, well, double Gate, if you will.
It is a good
There's
point
the
because the Shen being available kind of limits where you can go and get those numbers advantage on TF. You can use the TF to attack the Shen, and the Shen can't ult to himself. So, but if you go bot lane, you know, you're like, oh, okay, it's a 3v2. Well, it's actually probably not because Impact can throw that ultimate in there. Obviously, the math on that can kind of get messed around because TF builds cooldown reduction a lot more easily than Shen for that Stand United, especially in competitive play. People are pretty much never going Lucidities. The only way you really get any is from runes and masteries, etc. So it can be up quite often. But I'd like to see Froggen continually trying to make plays and trying to do things. And it could end up being Acadian and Froggen trying to get aggressive and take over Contract's jungle. And maybe this is how they're saying they're going to put that Ivern behind.
There it goes. Rapid Fire Froggen. Bring it out once again.
Hey, it's worked a couple times.
Get those extended range gold cards out and let Acadian finish them off.
It's fun to hear the different opinions on builds like that as well from pro players, as well as from, you know, analysts and everything. It's like, you know, some people are saying, you know, it's great. Some people are super tilted by it. Jad, I know, thinks it's awful. But a lot of people think it's fantastic, and it is working well for Froggen. So it can be hard to argue with the results.
I think that was the limiter, though. That was the qualifier for analyst stats. Was It's good for Froggen.
Yeah.
It's good for their play style, the way they want to go in, the way they kind of almost not hesitate on those attacks, but want to be in and out on their attacks. We see from Echo Fox. They're always walking away with the enemy has sliver of health, but maybe able to cancel it out with that rapid fire, Froggen. And Kha'Zix following up. Now with the Nautilus as well, a bit more tank towards the top lane. That was Looper on Poppy last time, trying to put up the damage. He's going against Impact's Shen, who got player of the game in game number 1. This is number 2. Player of the game award is up for grabs, and we'll see what happens as we come in here. Fox looking to hold this series to a game 3 here.
I really want to track the jungle this game, see how Acadian is able to perform against Contracts on the Ivern. And Contracts hasn't shown us a lot of Ivern yet. I'm sure he's been practicing it quite a bit, bringing it out in competitive. But this is only his second competitive Ivern game. First one looked pretty solid, but Acadian has shown us a lot on Kha'Zix, so we know how good this guy is. It can be a barometer for how strong Contracts is on the Ivern.
Now you got me all excited. I think he's gonna do something crazy. They'll have like this interesting path. Contracts will be level 1 at 5 minutes. What are you setting me up for?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm setting myself up for.
Oh, a little bit of a pause.
All right, I guess that's what we're setting ourselves up for. So it is a pause, but hopefully we'll be able to get right back in pretty quickly, get this started up. Nothing too crazy as far as masteries and runes and things like that to point out. One thing with Looper on the Nautilus is the champion has such incredible engage and such powerful flank opportunities, but I do feel that it's tough to actually make use of that unless you're communicating well with your team and you're on the same page. And that has been one thing that has been a bit of a problem for Looper. He sometimes finds himself flash taunting and flashing ahead and looking for these engages when his team is not ready for them or is not on the same page. That was really one of the defining fights of the Echo Fox Liquid series. Was they're getting TP'd on, there's a Kha'Zix in the back line, and he's flashing forward on Maokai and trying to engage. So he really needs to make sure that he's on the same page as his team and nailing those engages, because Nautilus can look super dominant when you are on point with those engages, but if you're not, I feel like its strength pales in comparison to the Maokai and the Shen and the utility that they kind of give.
As you're saying, you do get that distance with the depth charge. Maybe, and I look at the pick of, MF, Jensen on the back line as well in these fights, as that depth charge can get back there, stop that time. So over the Shen, that works for them. It also allows Looper to play safe with that distance. So playing in their favor. The top lane, they have not done too much yet. They didn't even see each other, I believe, as we get Keith fixed up here with a mouse issue. And I believe we're about to get back into game anyway. So back onto the Rift. Not too much has started as we are getting into game 2. If you're just joining us, obviously, NALCS is the only thing you're watching today. And we're in.
We are indeed. And both these teams also have a ton of crowd control. You have to really play that very, very safe as far as, just look at across the board, right? You have Taunt, then you have the root from Contracts, then you have Stun from Jensen, you have another root from Sneaky, and on the other side, it's a lot of the same thing. Really, Acadian, the only one who doesn't add CC, so 4 of the 5 members have a lot of crowd control on both teams, and that means that picks can be a really big thing. Who initiates the team fights and who hits that crowd control first? Because if you land one crowd control on an important member, you can very often follow that up, and as a result, Jensen going to be taking the cleanse, and kind of does have to do that. But Froggen could very easily get CC chained down too. Ivern comes in there, you get a scatter of the week, you follow that up with that root, you can be going down pretty fast.
Oh, 1 card in. I love seeing the play with Ivern as well. Some people get them in trouble because of his seed, bringing you a little too close. Doesn't really hurt in the 80 carries because it keeps you at range, but it's been interesting to see the interactions and how people take to them. Contracts instantly on the blue. It's pretty clean set on this. The early part of the jungle obviously isn't really anything to fall behind on. We'll have to see once it gets from that first back.
This is definitely pretty standard stuff. Just sets up his seeds across the map. You go over the blue buff, you smite that, so you have the mana coming back to continue to pick up and kind of place down your passive even more. And as you arrive on the other side of the map, those camps are ready to collect, so you have a very fast, easy early clear here on Ivern. And you can even see that Acadian move very quickly up to his double buff, so he's going to have a quick double buff start, and we'll have to track where he wants to go after this, what he's really trying to get done here. If he wants to go for an early gank, if that's what he feels like Ivern cannot match.
He's playing kind of Ivern timer, as you may know. Feels pretty confident to go for top scuttle, because they almost would have matched. But like I said, it's the clean up. Froggen on the siege wave, actually getting hit up pretty hard.
And Jensen was able to land a full combo there, and I do think it's going to be tough in the 1v1 for Froggen in this matchup in particular. But his hope is obviously to kind of push in, to get things done that way, and really to make the plays around the map, not necessarily in mid lane.
I love this, the slight tell when mid laners start playing to the top and bottom of river. Cloud9 and Fox trading quite a bit of HP in the bot lane. Sneaky pretty healthy coming out of this, though.
And that's the big thing to track, right? So supports trade HP, but Key took damage and Sneaky really didn't, and that's where you are going to get that edge. You can see Cloud9 is respecting the power of these early Kha'Zix ganks. They had an early ward in the river. Now they have one topside where they're going to be able to track Kha'Zix on that camp there if he tries to wrap around behind Impact, and Contract's into the mid lane. That's flashed down already.
He's going to back immediately. He says, my flash is down. I'll let these minions crash into my turret, and I can get back in time. Might be a repeat going into the Froggen. Acadian kind of hatching wards on that side. Impact, I believe, is toying with him pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. They had this all warded out. They're expecting the early ganks from him. The question is, did Impact actually bait himself out with it? And he is going to be okay going in there. Oh. And at the same time,
minion damage.
This is going to mean Contracts gets the entire bot side jungle probably from Acadian, and maybe gets even a wraparound gank here.
Both wards are up for Fox here. If they lose somebody, would have been a big error. They need to get some vision out, especially 4.5 minutes into the game. And they actually avoid that one. A summoner from gate.
But look at this, Contracts. You know, he smited away the Krugs. Now he walks back to collect the Raptors. And that's a couple more camps going his way from his enemy's jungle. So he is going to be able to be a little bit ahead in that regard. And so far, both junglers matching each other pretty well. Acadian not able to get anything done right off the bat, though.
Flash is down. They are making the rinse and repeat gank. A few more hits. He hits the root. It's going to be one more hit. Don't do that. Contracts box his auto attack so Jensen can get the kill. Very well played, and they were setting that one up.
Really nice pathing from Contracts as he's able to make the repeat gank already, thanks to his control of that bot side. And
oh, terrible.
It's got to be frustrating for Froggen, already ganked twice a couple minutes into the game. He's going to be so far behind. The farm plus that first blood, Jensen's going to take over.
I was going to say, you got to go forward on that. Gate actually took a step backwards, thinking it was the disengage. That would have very well been a kill. Smoothie didn't even have to flash out. Contract finally back in with his gingerbread cookies.
Such a ridiculous skin.
Let's see this one more time in mid lane. And you can see Jensen even walks up, and then Froggen's like, that's too much. You're coming too close.
Yeah, and Froggen, you know, popped the summoner spell pretty early there. He did show respect to it, but with that big minion wave there, double flash committed, Froggen didn't have his flash available, so there's nothing he can really do unless he avoids that skill shot. So now down a lot of farm. Jensen will make the base, and he's going to be quite a lot ahead. Look at that. I mean, look at that buy.
And control wards. One thing we definitely see Cloud9 doing is that first back. Usually they do it all together, are very closely synced. They all come out with one of those control wards, and they continue to do so. Now down towards the bot. Smoothie's doing a little warding by himself. Also mid, we talked about this before. Smoothie being able to leave a lot more than Gate leaving the lane. He's more so always with Keith, keeping that much, much safer. So just that added vision is much more information in the early game.
Things looking good again for Cloud9. Looper, you know, something to be said for his CS lead in top lane. You know, he has been winning that early matchup. Impact can have the advantage of being able to get that back by sitting in side lanes more often because he has to stand united. So that's something that does work in his favor. But early game, Nautilus is very, very strong. You can kind of outstat a lot of the other tank tops, and you can kind of get edges that way.
He's doing a very nice job of that CS lead too, just crashing waves into Impact's turret. Looper feeling much better this game, as it did not go well for him against Impact's Rumble. So Red goes over to Jensen. They're going to start being able to share these, which is much, much nicer.
Especially when you're taking them away from your opponent.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And that red buff, you may say, why Syndra? Well, it is going to give him extra damage on the auto attack trades, obviously, but a lot of it is also about the HP regen. So when you are, you know, not getting hit by your opponent, you are going to be continuously regenning more health, and that's going to give you a trading edge quite a bit in this sort of matchup.
What they did to Envy yesterday, Contracts and Jensen would just trade it back to his core key over and over. I think it took about 30 minutes just for them to get one of their blues, and even one of those was stolen by Jensen's rocket alone. So they give teams a whole hell of a lot of trouble with this Ivern pickup and not being able to source their mid laner a blue. Smoothie taking some damage. Another wave crashing into mid here, or I'm sorry, the bot lane. As Gate takes a bit of damage. Things slow down after the first gank, but Contrax is still going to be looking for information here as he heads into the jungle.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he does have to be careful about finding himself in a straight-up fight with Acadian, but with Daisy and the shields and everything, he certainly can go pretty aggressive and walks right in, takes both his buffs away on this clear, and there's nothing Acadian can do about it because his mid laner's shoved in.
Can't help but not laugh.
Yeah, I mean,
ridiculous.
It's super frustrating for the Kazakhs, though.
Laugh, I should say.
I mean, your top laner is in base, your mid laner is shoved in. Nothing you can do about that besides give it up. So he makes the smart play, but this is going to be a 4-buff clear for C9.
Contracts making this Ivern pickup look much more juicy here. And I wonder how many people have actually looked at this in the NALCS. We keep going for Rengar, we keep going for Rek'Sai. Even Lee gets in there for a few teams and Elise.
Well, if they haven't looked at it before this week,
Kazakhs.
everyone is going to be practicing it this
Absolutely.
week. I mean, I honestly feel like people should have picked it up earlier. This is a champion that has been very strong for a long time and has been showcased in the EU LCS to great success. You know, it was 12-3 in competitive play before it got shown in NALCS. So this is a champion that has been smashing, right? And the fact that people hadn't picked it up, I felt like was an error. And certainly now that TSM and C9 are picking it up, as soon as the top teams in a region pick something up, the other teams generally do follow after that. So I think we will see more and more of Ivern in the coming weeks.
I don't think it's too much that, you kind of have to not base the composition around it, but know how to play around it, know what it's going to do. And it also, now that C9 has it, goes into the pick ban phase where do you really take away Ivern from Contracts because he can play anything else just as good. This is one of the ones he's just shown us now.
And that's why champion pools are so important, right? Being able to play these extra champions. Add Contracts to the list of another guy who you can't really attack and pick ban as well, right? If you have these really strong, not as meta picks, at least not as meta in the region, you can always get advantages in pick ban. It's like, oh great, you're an incredible Singed player. Well, do they ban that out against you? How do they get their edges? TP coming in. Luper wants this.
Gonna start tickling. Oh, flash straight into it. Oh, the hook. There's the stand united, but they do not stand united. They stand separated on that one. Impact gets stopped to the top lane and continues to farm.
That is one thing that Kazakhs can do that Contracts cannot, is
the bing bang boom.
Pop your AD carry. That said, a lot committed to the bot side, so we'll find out what C9 is able to get back after this. A Gate almost did go down. You know, top lane is being pushed in for Impact, so he's getting that farm advantage kind of evened out, and we'll be able to deny some of this and also get a decent amount of damage down on top turret because he has the red buff from Ivern. So watching this once again here, was a good engage, and Smoothie trying to get dope with the exhaust.
Frogging under the turret, thinks twice, gets himself out of that one with the ghost. Thought he could take down Smoothie, but the support doing a bit more damage than he thought.
It's a good try from Froggen, but the exhaust is something you always have to calculate in, and especially with that like early deficit that Froggen had, and the fact that he's not building any CDR, your first ultimate failing really feels bad because he's already down, 30 CS to Jensen. Jensen has that first blood gold. He's on a full completed item. Froggen has no lucidity boots, no Morello, nothing like that. He's having to build a little bit more tanky, and really desperately needed that ultimate to work to kind of stay more relevant in this game.
Well, even without a turret drop, it looks like Fox is going to try something tricky here on Impact. Impact does have teleport to get somewhere if this goes wrong, but they just showed themselves.
Rotation.
Yeah, they just want the aggression.
They just want the turret. They're going to try to rush it down, and we'll see if they can get it first. It's going to be a bit of a race. With Kazakhs going up to topside as well, I think that Echo Fox should get first turret, and they certainly will. So really nice move from them. They were actually losing their lanes, but yet they get first turret because they make the rotation. And this is a play that more teams need to show respect to because we've seen it time and time again in the NALCS now. And Echo Fox is even pushing for the tier 2 because they have the lead on this push. They're going to get 2 turrets, and they had no business getting that with the stage they were in the game.
Froggen has dipped into the top side of the jungle as well, so if anybody feels comfortable about rotating through that side of C9, they don't feel comfortable. Cloud9's back. They're going to lose second tier. And it looks like the strats here activated by Echo Fox, but
good stuff.
Keep it going. It looks good for now, but Cloud9's very good at reacting and adapting.
They certainly are, and it's not like some massive lead or whatever, but this put them right back in it, right? This gives a bunch of global gold over to the team, so to their members who are struggling, they're going to be able to now get some item completions.
That's a good point. Helping the whole bank account.
I mean, that's the role complete for Froggen, right? He didn't actually get much done there, but just that global gold gifts him an item completion, puts him in a place where he's more relevant in the game and can hopefully make more plays from there, and they can look to get advantages off of that. So I think it's really smart play from Echo Fox, especially from their losing position, to be able to get not only first turret, but a 2-for-1 trade.
Yeah. This would be real nice for Cloud9 with their double AD composition between Varus and MF. Trade over once again. And it still goes to the center. Today I learned.
Yeah.
Never had a Syndra throw it out.
Yeah, I did not know you could channel. I thought it was going to kind of reset on him and run back before he could actually channel it, but that's pretty crazy. Oh, Froggen.
Oh boy. Ooh. A nice flash. We both got a ooh out of both of us. I don't think it's going to last very long, though. Dace is about to send him straight flying into the air. There it is. And Sneaky takes down Froggen.
Yeah, and they had enough control there to gift it over to their AD, which is really nice. If you look at the farm advantages in bottom mid lane for C9, that's looking a little bit scary. So gifting a kill over there to Sneaky 2 means he's going to be way up in gold and in power. Nice catch, though.
Hello, good day. Smoothie didn't see him standing there and no longer is standing there himself. Jensen is dodging out the curtain call. And Fox, this is how Fox fights. They don't like to stop, whether they have the full 5 or just few around. Acadian loves to get in and attack. We heard these coming in his kind of interviews in the beginning. A lot of junglers say they're aggressive, but they don't show it. This guy wants to show it.
He certainly does want to, and he really has done a great job of doing it. He's been one of the best junglers in the NALCS period, despite being on one of the teams that is not really at the top of the table. And especially on Kha'Zix, he's looked incredible. He's right back at it this game, definitely making things happen for Echo Fox, involved in both their kills.
High in the sky. Pop out. Again, a lot committed for this. Looper comes all the way in on the teleport. Bullet time is going to miss. Just a splash on Fox. Looper low, but he still wants to rip back. Shield coming in. Acadian all the way to the back. And 3 members, they get contracts, but that's the life of Looper. Acadian now fighting Impact back and forth. Froggen slowly stepping in, but that's a ward in the brush from Cloud9. So Froggen was still in vision. They also have vision as he continues to roam in. Fox peels back on this one, getting 2, as where we usually see them try to go for more and lose the most.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was good patience to not dive in, not kind of show that desperation to get more. They're actually up in gold this game, and they catch Jensen on the ward. TP coming in, full commitment to this play, really nice. Fast reaction from Impact on that Stand United, but this is really key from Smoothie. Smoothie kind of kept them from getting devastated in this fight by zoning Froggen off his carry, keeping him alive longer, allowing him to get more done in the fight, but it still does go Echo Fox's way in the 2-for-1 trade, and it could have gone a lot worse as, I mean, if they weren't already chunked out, they could have kind of more aggressively chased in and probably picked up some of those kills.
Ooh, that's close. Heal quick. Insta spike. Cloud9 moving their numbers to the top side. They want to crush this turret down. It does not look like they will be uncontested. Fox continues to put their guys wherever Cloud9 goes now.
This is 4 men in the top lane, though, and they have TP available on Impact, so we'll see how they want to defend this. Oh, they're going in.
Sneaky low, one more shot. It's going to be the block. Smoothie gets just enough range between them, so it's not an AoE. Get out alive, but also hold off the top turret, which is quite big for them. So they're going to get a little more gain in those lanes as the minions push up. And they can start to work some wards towards the inside of this map where we see Jensen, where we see contracts. Once Fox can get the wards that deep, they're the ones that can make the quicker rotations.
Definitely will be able to. Pretty hyphy play, though, from Gate. As I figured, you know, with that flash forward, Froggen would be coming in, but him not having his ultimate available seemed pretty unlikely they were actually going to get that kill because Smoothie was always going to be there to block the shot. Either way, they do defend the turret, as you said, and that is important, and Froggen is kind of scaling up. He's not having the best of games, but he's in the side waves, he's picking up CS, and he's going to be looking to try to make some plays. Ooh.
Oh, they could have eaten Sneaky alive there. They hesitated. Yeah, they hesitated for a second, but said, wait, we have more vision. And we can see other members of Cloud9. So Sneaky becoming a liability here as we get into the middle part of the game. I don't know, middle, we're only 17 minutes in. Things just started popping off.
I mean, Acadian just keeps finding these picks. He's done a great job of setting up around Vision, looking for those kills. And, you know, he is keeping his team very well in this game. I mean, they're up a little bit of gold. It's not a massive lead, but they're looking strong. And now being level 11, getting the resets means he can play even more aggressively with that.
Looks like he keeps hovering Gate here. He's like, Gate bait. Gate, I'm going to cast you out, make it look juicy, throw a ward in for a check, or a face check, and then we just kill somebody. Let's try what they actually tried to do last game with Anivia as well. Anivia and some Nidalee spears coming through. They just couldn't lock down their target. Now they have the Kha'Zix, and those targets are falling as they want them.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is a locket is going to be built up for contracts when you have the redemption, when you have the locket, when you have the exhaust, and you have the trigger seed and the shields. There's so many things that do come in that make it tougher and tougher to get those picks the later you get in the game. Because if you jump in on Sneaky and locket shield goes up, redemption goes down, the Ivern shield, you have the Stand United, there's so many things. But they're looking for a play here in the mid lane. Jensen's got.
They haven't really focused on the curtain call, so the follow-up damage doesn't really get anybody. Frog is the first one. Way in front, gets himself out of that one. A little scary, but they're going to be all right. A nice try coming in from Fox again. Looper coming in from the side to try and initiate, but they do the curtain call. It's almost like an activation for Cloud9 to be wary of something that's coming.
Yeah, and Impact very quickly responds. I like the fact that he's not waiting until his teammates are low to use that ultimate, so he's actually always getting in there, and Keith almost going down. Jensen will be okay.
Should be good, Daisy. It's funny you say that, because that's always the way you almost learn to use Shen All. It's like, okay, they're almost dying, now do it.
Yeah, I mean, people watch health bars, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, does he need it? Oh yeah, he needs it, I'm gonna go now. But the problem with that is, oftentimes, the teleport doesn't actually complete. Oh, and Acadian doesn't have his jump, I don't
Root
think.
Caller, Chain of Corruption was missed.
Yeah.
Beautifully held by Contracts.
He jumped into that Dragon Pit from behind.
Yeah.
If you get caught there, that's what we talked about with the Blast Cone, right? If you can use that to get in, you have the jump to get out. But he didn't in that case. Ends up going down.
Womp womp. Good hold, good plays.
That feels real bad for Echo Fox, too.
It does. They've been keeping things in their favor. I was going to say they're playing very, very well, but it seems like they got a little ahead of themselves, thinking that bottom side of the river just continuously is theirs. And now Cloud9 takes a bit of it back, and they move their residents forward. Taking down the mid turret. You thought it would have been Cloud9's that would fall with the way this game has been going.
It was an overreach from Acadian. I understand he wants to be able to really extend that lead and to get something more, but they didn't have the vision. They didn't really have the control to be able to go for that, so he gives up the shutdown and an Infernal to his opponents, as well as the mid lane turret, all off of that play. So that's a lot of gold, as well as that kind of late game power for them. Oh, that's Syndra.
Closing the gate. Jensen walks away with a kill for himself. Things that shouldn't happen on the Rift.
Oh, here comes Acadian, though. They want Jensen. He's dodging everything.
Redemption went down. He'll be safe on that one. Looper wanted to stay out of it for the damage. Impact looking for a double taunt here if he can get him. No, they go for Looper. They want the tank. They're going to cut the meat down on this one. Rush not doing too much help. They get the grasping root, or should say root caller down, and they're still on to Looper. Acadian doing his damnedest to say, get away from my tank, but they don't even worry about the bug. They just take Looper straight from 100 to 0.
This is great play from Jensen. I mean, he dodges pretty much every curtain call shot, and then Looper misses his hook in. That could have been an easy kill for them if they were able to have that skill shot accuracy, but they do not land the hits on Jensen. He dodges them out. That nets them a kill.
These are pivotal, too, because he's been using Cleanse quite often when the depth charge gets on him, when he's slowed in these fights. So not having that makes his dodges that much more good for the team to stay safe. Or that much better, I should say. That much more good. We're good on English today. 36.5 to 35. Cloud9 within that last fight and shutting down Contracts for the team at 3 kills is a good bit of gold for everyone. Next Dragon's going to be an Infernal, 1 Mountain, and then probably 2 Infernals as we see what happened here once again.
Yeah, and it really is. Jensen gets tagged for the first, but just good dodge. Dodges the third. The last one not able to hit either. The hook misses, and now it's been fully turned around, right? They have no threat anymore. It's in full retreat as Impact and Contracts come in. They're able to eventually chase down Looper. As it's so hard to get away from an Ivern because he can continuously throw out those root callers. The trigger seeds slow you down as well, and Daisy's knocking you up. So there's kind of the 3 forms of CC when trying to escape that Ivern, and if you commit to a bad fight, you almost always get punished by Ivern.
6.5 seconds right now on Root Caller. So basically when you get out of it, expect another one.
Yeah, and this slow can be coming in the meantime.
Exactly.
And then there's the Daisy knockup. So it's all 3 of those. Just means it's so tough to ever get away from this guy. So you need to be really sure you're going to win a fight when you go in, or there's almost no escape.
Things are only getting tougher here for Fox. We have seen that they can hold off when they play from behind, but getting that lead back in their favor is something they need to find to do this year. Cloud9 is really one of the bigger tests of that, but to show against Cloud9 and take them 40+ minutes. That means they definitely can find a way in. It's just Cloud9 does not allow it most of the time. They've been so good at keeping the defense up.
They really have it, and you can see that the TF ultimate is forced there just because of the amazing amount of vision that Cloud9 has. Look at all these pink wards. There's 4 pink wards in the Baron area. So Echo Fox has no idea if they were on it. And there's also bushes on it, so they had to actually pop the TF ult just to see if they were doing Barons. That's one of their big playmaking abilities, taken away just like that.
It does, kind of puts a setback timer on you. You're like, all right, another 60 seconds. We actually had our minion wave in position there, but now we can't use that. So
yeah,
one thing was in the spot, but now we got to get it back.
And C9 can always threaten this Baron. They can just keep moving over there, and if you don't have a blue trinket or a TF ult or something, you have to be able to face check it, and you're not going to get away with that against Cloud9. I mean, look how scared they have to be. Cloud9 isn't on the Baron, but they could be, right?
Quite scary. They move up. Ping's going on to Baron, both teams. They're going to have a little bit of vision there.
Yeah, they had the blue trinket did come down, but that gets cleared out, and now once again into darkness. At what point will Cloud9 actually make the call to go to that Baron and start it up? They really want to get a pick first because they don't want to risk throwing away this lead that they have built up, and they're in a great position, so they don't have to start it up, but they certainly could. The other thing going on here is, I mean, Looper is coming up to the team, wants to be ready for a fight. Impact's pushing in the waves, right? Impact is always split pushing, so he's picking up CS advantage, XP advantage, etc.
Kind of think, when are they going to fight? Cloud9 is like, we're okay. Looper's about to do a crap load of damage to this turret. You're the people that need to move, and that's exactly what they're waiting on.
And now it was Acadian was actually going bot side. They were considering going for a pick onto Impact. But if you make that call, then you better kill that guy really fast and get back to the Baron, because C9 will immediately go for the Baron if multiple members try to answer Impact in that bot lane.
He's actually hovered. I think they saw him, but obviously it doesn't matter. He can just ult up to this spot. Ooh. All shots on Jensen. Curtain call is down now, so a little bit of a pressure relief here for Cloud9 if they did want to try a fight.
Yeah, nice shots there from Keith. Hits them all, but no follow-up damage, and those Ivern shields do keep you from getting lower, and you have to remember that the Jhin ultimate, the 4-shot, is like an execute, so the lower you are, the more damage it deals, and he didn't get that low. That said, at least Echo Fox will be able to finally get in and get some vision control. That's 3 pink wards cleared out. They probably won't be able to get the one near the mid lane, but they're actually getting some back and aren't going to be at as much of a threat.
Sometimes it looks bad. You're like, there are so many wards there. Just takes time. Play safe. Don't lose a few members, and those wards won't move forward. You eventually clear them out. Still, that doesn't mean that Fox can move forward just yet. Echo Fox been having trouble.
Oh, they're looking for the fight.
As I say it, Froggen's going to go in great. Make it rain, slows down Froggen, and really they can only fight Daisy at this point. He gets scattered backward. Chain's gonna connect on 3, and that's the re-engage as Cloud9
nice ult from Gate, though.
Awesome, in. They popped up from the Stranglethorn, and it is going to try and be the re-engage again from Cloud9. Looper gets hit up with, even with all of C9 members flying through the air, they hit the ground, and they hit the ground fighting.
Yeah, Gay had an incredible ultimate there, but the locket, the exhaust, everything stops Acadian from zeroing out that kill. And now it's C9 right onto the Baron, and this one is going to be nigh impossible to stop. You can't even see the Baron with that objective, and Gate's dead. Ouch. I mean, the Ivern bushes are so frustrating to play against. There's nothing you can do. Like, how do you actually deal with that? You don't even know what the health of the Baron is, so there's not even really a chance to go for a steal.
Ridiculous. We'll see it here again. And as I'm saying, kind of Fox cleared out those wards. They feel confident. Let's do it. They're grouped up. Let's hit them.
And here is that fight once more time. You actually saw a wasted flash there from Looper, not able to get anything. The disengage very easy. It looks like it's already a disaster fight, but then Gate goes in and tries to make something happen. And look at this ultimate. He lands the roots. He lands it on everyone. Everyone gets low. Katie wants to go for the execution, but the instant exhaust, plus the shields, plus the redemption, all lands, denying that kill. Cannot get the reset, and the extra kill going over onto Looper, but I'm not sure really what happened with that initiation. Pretty sloppy. I mean, the flash expended from Looper doesn't even get close to anyone, and Froggen ulted in pretty far away from anyone as well, so they couldn't have anything going.
That's the one thing that continues to come back when I think about these initiations is we see Keith's curtain call. It makes C9 aware. We see those TF gates. It makes C9 aware. And they're always good at reacting to a fight. So it's very hard when these come in 2 to 3 seconds ahead of time. And then it's even harder when you actually don't get that engage that you want. Like you said, Froggen coming in very late, slowed down. So it becomes even more difficult, the fact that they're tipping off Cloud9.
Yeah, it really needs to be all at the same time,
Exactly.
right? You know, the Nautilus ultimate has to be coming through as the TF ultimate's coming through, as the Zyra's flashing forward. Like, all these things have to happen at the same time, and it's not quite there yet from Echo Fox. You know, Looper was really not on the same page as the team there, it felt like, and Froggen couldn't get close enough. So when that happens, it tends to go bad, and there's so much protection from the assassination of Acadian that as long as C9 stay grouped, it's really hard for the Kazakhs to participate. I mean, he started 3-0-1, he was killing people left and right, but now, how do you actually jump in and kill someone without just dying?
It's going to be tough. We did not see the behind Ivern this game, as Acadian said, most fall behind in the scrims he watches. We actually saw Contracts take over the jungle, relieving pressure on the lanes and allowing Cloud9 to really come out strong here. Shots fired out. Obviously, you're going to think twice. Huge Stand United shield onto Contracts. He doesn't even have to worry. Gate is going to be taken out as he thought that was a safe distance, but there is no more safe distance on the map with Cloud9 piling through. Train on the tracks now headed for the middle inhibitor. 40 seconds on these death timers are going to give Cloud9 a lot of time to play in the base.
I think this could just be the game if Cloud9 want to go for it. They have been super risk averse, so they might not try to end it here. But Baron minions in the base, long death timers, and they are all very, very healthy.
They still got that Daisy to walk them right in. Good minions on the turrets. It's going to be the Deadly Flourish and everything that Keith can deliver, but he's running out of ammo. They're running out of time, and they're running out of games in this series. It's going to be a win for Cloud9. They're going to come up with another 2-0. And Cloud9 moves to 6-0 in the NALCS.
Still perfect, looking great this season is Cloud9. And, you know, although Echo Fox, they fought them pretty tight in game 1, game 2 felt more one-sided, and it didn't feel like they could really get Froggen going in this one, who has been such a big player for them.
Yep.
You know, when he got put so far behind in the early game, it really did set them back, and Cloud9 was able to capitalize, continuously take away the buffs with the Ivern, and it just felt like smooth sailing from there.
That seems like such a hard thing to fight against. I mean, TF's not going to need blue all the time. It is difficult to clear those waves. We saw him kind of falling behind against Syndra, but you expect that to be kind of Froggen's lane. This is another one of those comfort picks for him, and it really is Cloud9 coming together as a team and really hitting hard. But you question what happens when Echo Fox can do that, and when can that happen for them?
Yeah, and I think that they're close. I mean, they are improving, certainly. You know, you hope for Echo Fox that they're not going to get too discouraged from this 0-2 week after their resurgence last week, because they still, even in these losses, look much better than week 1. And they are close, but, you know, with a team like Cloud9, you have to make every little thing count, right? And Froggen falling behind, you know, maybe if he wasn't so behind, that bot lane first ultimate kills off Smoothie because he was very close there. Yeah. These little things can help you snowball and can really change the outcome of a game. But because he never got to that stage, because he could never zero out, you know, even really to support, he couldn't get to his split push going. He couldn't get the map unlocked. They couldn't really have the game kind of moving in their favor. And with that not being able to happen, Kazakhs, how can he get involved, right? How can he get the picks? Because Cloud9 just simply grouped up as a squad and didn't let that happen.
It seems like they're as much on the page as they kind of say they are. There may just be a few communication issues with Fox wanting to go in, and maybe they're not communication issues. Maybe it's getting hungry in those games when things do keep coming up short. That plays on your mentality a lot, and it absolutely plays on your mentality when you play these compositions that can zero out somebody when you might be able to get it and you're going just a little too far each time. It really becomes difficult.
It certainly is, but Looper, I definitely think, you know, he needs to work a little bit better with this team for them to take that next step, but still, they are improving, and there's a lot of positives to take away from them.
Different comps as well. They're coming through picks and bans with different things. They're trying to work around the fact that they're looking to ban out Froggen, and Nivea gets hit there, but they're definitely making sure Froggen doesn't get the champs he can super carry the games on. We see how troublesome it is for the Nivea, and teams recognize that. So, I don't know. Maybe more in the pool for Echo Fox. It's hard to say when you're already 2 weeks in and you're kind of working the compositions of the meta. We will have to see. For a breakdown on that series, let's check in with our analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Cloud9 remain undefeated here, 6-0 on the split, a 12-2 game record. I mean, they're looking hot, and it doesn't look like very many teams are going to be able to take them down or even take it to them.
But I mean, these two games were like maybe a little bit sloppier, where there were a couple more pickoffs, but like hardly anything to get worried about. They basically took care of business. The games were still relatively quick, especially once they started getting leads.
Yeah, and I know we kind of got into this habit last year early on when Echo Fox wasn't doing great, but Echo Fox doesn't feel like a pushover to me. Right. So that's why they were kind of able to fight fight back. Froggen's a strong mid laner, Lupin's a strong top laner. And they put up a fight. Like, Acadian was scary for certain parts of that game, but Cloud9 just had much better teamwork, had that small lead, and were able to pull everything out.
Right. I mean, Acadian had a CS lead. In many of his games, he is by far and away the strongest early game jungler in the lead. And here again, we saw him building up a CS lead against that Ivern, who typically has a pretty easy time out farming his opponents. This Ivern look on contracts, what is our thoughts there? Because this is a player that we've seen perform well on the Kha'Zix and Lee Sins and the such, but very different play style here.
I actually think it looks really good. He is basically Jensen's babysitter. He's always there. And so, you know, Ivern's a great pick for doing that. You want to spend a lot of time around mid. You don't need to spend a ton of time clearing. So he goes mid really early, forces the flash out, and then they repeat gank him, and they pick up a kill on Froggen, which holds Froggen down a ton. He ends up a bunch of CS down off the back of these kinds of plays. And that's what Contract's main job on C9 is make sure Jensen gets ahead. And I think Ivern's a great pick for doing that.
Yeah, and speaking of contracts as well, I'm going to do some of my favorite results-based analysis.
Let's do it.
I like putting contracts on the variable junglers instead of just being on a carry, because he has kind of proven, even throughout Challenger when he was making his way up, as a young player, he's very capable of playing almost everything. Like, this is not a guy who struggles to pick up new champions or new styles for that matter. Not to mention, Cloud9's a team who can play around a lot of different carries. So you're able to put him on the Ivern, not need him to carry, and just camp for Jensen.
Right now, you mentioned that Echo Fox is not a pushover team. This series did prove exactly that. Even in the 2-0, there was still a bit of contention between the two teams. It wasn't until this 26-minute fight here that we're about to see 3-0 for Cloud9 in the mid lane that they really got control of this one.
And this is where you see the power of the Ivern and exactly what it can do. C9 trying to get some poke down onto Echo Fox. Echo Fox with the TF ult coming in. Looks like they're going to be able to try and get a pick onto somebody. And then, you know, Contract flashes out right away.
Daisy's like soloing Gate out over here on the left side of the screen.
Right, and then they get some CC onto Frog, and they say, all right, let's jump on him. And then Sneaky gets caught out, but it's a total bait with the Shen ult coming in, the Ivern shield, as well as the locket that he tends to build to throw down the Redemption.
And the exhaust.
So much, you know, ways to keep a character alive.
Yeah, and that's one of the tricky things is you change the way you have to team fight. Ivern has this massive mid-game power spike as C9 was able to just kind of continue this play into the Invisible Baron and pick off Gate on the side of that fight. Is Ivern gets to Locket and Redemption faster than any other champion in the game is ever going to get there, because he doesn't need items to clear the jungle. He just builds boots, and then immediately the two most powerful support items. Doesn't even have to worry about sight.
Right, you sit on that Hunter's Talisman, and you build straight into those items.
And those items are so insane in team fights of just blocking enemy engages. It's quite impressive.
Also cheap.
They made great use of it there.
Yeah, they're very cheap. Contracts will be picking up player of the game here for getting Jensen ahead. Of course, the Syndra and Jensen has always been a top performer for the team when he does get ahead, but he's relying sometimes on those ganks and the attention there from Contracts to the mid lane. But this 2-0 look here, as we've got these guys behind us, just joining us for the Analyst S segment. Lemonation, what do you think of that game?
I love my old team.
Yes, there it is. All right, fabulous. No, but this look on C9, the 2-0 here, I mean, they are out to a hot start here, 6-0. What is the key to beating this squad? Because we saw two different looks from them today. We saw impact on the Rumble this time around in game 1. So they don't necessarily have to play just through that stereotypical tank top lane, carry-ish jungler, you know, through to the bottom lane support ADC.
They don't need to, but I think their first game victory, they did look a little shakier. There were a lot more pickoffs, a lot more random scrappy fights that happened. And I know they're playing, you know, a team with, you know, no tanks. It's not as easy to close the game out when you're ahead without that. But I think that's something that maybe teams can try and force onto C9, because they seem to always have defensive options. In game 2, we see the Shen, we see the Ivern, we've seen Taric, we've seen these very supportish style champions in a variety of roles. And when you take all those away, you might be able to force this kind of like really explosive game where hopefully a team stacks up better individually to contest them.
Yeah, my theory on how you might be able to take down C9 is looking at some of the inconsistencies they had in the past, where Jensen goes off some games or falls back very few games. And he still has the resource allocation of last split, where he has the highest percentage of minions killed post 15 minutes of any mid laner in the NALCS. So he's kind of a farm hog. So if you can stop him from getting started early, then they're going to struggle in team fights, since they do most of the time throw impact on a top lane tank, and Sneaky's usually on the utility AD carry. So I'd want to try and win through mid lane.
I think someone needs to find a way to disrupt that playstyle, because it's always tank top, You have contracts camping for Jensen mid to get him ahead. And Smoothie, who many agree is the best support in the league right now, has a crazy champion pool to counter anything out and always get priority by himself, basically. And so if you can break up that kind of game plan, you might have a chance.
Yeah, this is all theory, though, because they're undefeated. It's not like Jensen's an easy person to beat. He's one of the best mid laners, maybe the best mid laner in North America. So
I was about to say, the theory is great, but in practice is a totally different story, because what exactly is the way that you break up this strategy put together by Cloud9? Do you just send your jungler mid and try and win the 2v2 then against Contracts and Jensen?
Spend 3
That's
blue
probably
side
not a
bans,
2v2 that I want to take, right?
Yeah.
So then do I go top lane and try and abuse the tank and keep impact down so that he can't affect the map the rest of the way? Or do I go and try and turn the 2v2 that Smoothie and Sneaky have started to win in this split? I mean, previous splits, people have been pointing at that lane as the, you know, kind of the lackluster one for Cloud9. Well, they've stepped up huge this time around. Do I have to attack that weakness?
I mean, it's a great question, James. I don't think Jad or I are going to be like, yep, that's what you do. But I think that's
well,
what
then
you
why
have.
are you even here, Mark?
Yeah,
why do I have you on the
like,
desk?
do you want me
if
to?
You can't give me the answers
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
looking
leave.
for.
go coach an LCS team that needs to beat C9. And that's the thing that happens when a team hasn't lost yet, is you have to be, you know, you have to have your own theory on what will beat them because you haven't seen it go into practice yet.
Right, you're going to be the first one to do it when it happens.
Yeah.
Right, it's the kind of thing where, especially like maybe one team figures it out, and then you can start copying a little bit more. We saw the way that happened against Team Liquid with TSM and P1. The fact that you can kind of force this Kha'Zix Rengar matchup onto them when you're on the blue side. A team really hasn't found a way to exploit C9 a little bit even like that, where they just look worse in general, because most of their games, like we said, are 2-0s, most of their series. So there's not quite a foundation for other teams to experiment with, but the first team to do that will hopefully lay the groundwork.
All right, well, here's C9's opponents next week. Team Liquid and FlyQuest. Now, I would have to.
C9 too.
I was going to say, I would have to assume if we're going to look at any team that might be able to poke a hole into C9's strategy, FlyQuest could be the team to do it. There's still some familiarity between the teams, obviously, between Jensen and Sneaky. They've had experience playing with High. High might have some ideas of how to pick apart this squad and hand them their first loss.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really tricky game for a couple of reasons. But if FlyQuest were to get an edge, I think it's because they throw a curveball when compared to the rest of the LCS. Their draft phase is so much different than all the other draft phases. With Evelyn throwing in there, High's champion pool, it can at least be different because C9 is so good at playing the game that everyone else is playing.
On the topic of the of champion select, you were mentioning FlyQuest has some very interesting champ selects where they're willing to leave up, for example, LeBlanc in place of the Kha'Zix. And I know, Jet, you have some thoughts around Kha'Zix kind of as that fourth power pick, maybe even becoming a top 3 power pick.
Yeah, Mark and I were talking about this a lot. Is like, is Kha'Zix the 4th OP, and does that make him the 3rd OP on red side? Because blue side has this huge blue side win rate right now, but is that just because they always have Kha'Zix? Like, he breaks open so many games.
Right, there's no comparable jungler when you ban out, Rengar, LeBlanc, Camille, and then they get Kha'Zix. There's no matchup you take where it's like that close, and people are trying Ivern now, but it still doesn't look great, so it's tough.
Ultimately, C9 still looking hot, running undefeated here through week 3. It's time now for us to toss you over to NALCS 1, where FlyQuest and Immortals are getting ready for Game 2. FlyQuest up 1-0 in that series. Take a look.
Of his next flank, right? Because he's building up all this extra AP. And then also, it's always nice to have Shen on your team because it helps